Let's be serious. There are only a few dozen songs that have come on radio and rearranged our brains. They smacked us upside the head and really changed the way that we looked at the world. Today, we have the two principles behind one such song. It exploded on MTV and radio in the late 80s with an epic riff and a revolutionary message that had us seeing double. The iconic singer and guitarist behind the Force of Nature song tells us the story of a song that became thinking man's hard rock. Now, at first MTV wouldn't play it, they wouldn't touch it, till the biggest star in the world at the time, who loved these guys' music, threatened MTV if they didn't put this song in heavy rotation, he was going to hold back his new #1 video. They gave in and the rest is history. Coming up, a song that has so many famous sound bites in it, the band had no clue if they could get it released. Find out how they did it and how it changed the world next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember exactly where you were the first time you heard that iconic song or saw a life-changing music video, you remember the exact moment, you're gonna dig this channel of daily nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now and click the bell so you always know when our new interviews drop. We got a lot of great interviews coming out. So I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, Revelations, where featured artists go deep on their greatest songs and their greatest albums with fascinating insight that you really won't find anywhere else. I am really excited about today's episode, I gotta tell you. I remember the first time I saw this next band's video. It shook my world. It was in early 1989, and I heard that opening riff. I was mesmerized. Cult of Personality by Living Colour. I went out and bought the album the next day. You know, I had a chance to interview singer Corey Glover and guitarist Vernon Reid, of course, wrote the song. This interview is so freaking cool. Let's get right into it. Well, let me ask you about the origin of the song, how it came together. Corey, what do you remember about how it came together? I mean, this was a global song, too. It went to #3 in New Zealand, really hit there. But collaborative effort with the two of you writing with William and Muzz. Tell me about that.
Our intention and back then was to write as much as we possibly can. And the thing about Cult was it was a groove we kind of sort of stumbled upon. The groove was so compelling that we kept playing it over and over again. And Vernon had these lyrics that he'd been writing for a while, and we found a way to make this work. I mean, I don't want to say it was magical, but it did have a sense of awe about it, because we played this groove and it was like, oh man, this is really, really good. What else can we do with it? You know, what else can be done? And we added and we subtracted and we subtracted and we added and we divided and we did all kinds of stuff to it. And we settled on the simplest parts of it. Truly a collaborative effort in terms of how every bit and piece sort of came together and how everyone in their own way contributed to it, which is great.
Absolutely. The thing about it is that we were having a regular rehearsal, and we started out, and Corey was trying to sing a riff to me, and I stumbled on the da-da-da-da-da, and then from that point on, I yelled, well, put a beat to this, and he started, we just started hitting it, and then we were like, okay, this is great, and it just sort of assembled itself. I'd say that we did it, we collaborated, but it was like the song essentially assembled itself through us. That's the one thing we did during that rehearsal, was write that song and put all the parts to it. Like when I wrote the lyrics, look in my eyes, what do you see? The Cult of Personality. I had no melody. I had nothing. I was just essentially like a poem. And when we were working on the music, and the music was so, entrancing in a way, even that the riff, the part of that is, like we were also all kind of into fusion, you know what I mean? So it was like a cross between a kind of a Zeppelin vibe, and it was a kind of it had a whole Mahavishnu trip to it. And then I pulled up my red notebook, and then of course he said, "Look at my eyes," when he just hollered it, and it would just suddenly started to work. The cult of personality.
Another one of the puzzle pieces was the whole idea of putting these samples in there, because because of what Vernon was saying about Stalin and Mussolini and all sort of stuff, was to hear. For me, in my head, I heard John F. Kennedy's, we can go to the moon and other places. Nah, 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 nah. And ask not what your country can do for you.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
Doing Cult, knowing that it was the one song we all felt like, this is the one. This is a crowd favorite. This is a favorite of ours. This is something, one of this, from start to finish, it was a complete collaborative effort. It was funny because that was a day when everybody was in the studio doing we were doing it. So I'm in the booth doing the vocals, and everybody's there. It's like, so like everybody was wanting to hear how this was going to turn out. And like I said, I was really, really nervous, and I felt like I wanted to do it over and over and over again. And Ed Stasium obliged. And I really wanted to get it right, and that's all I could think about. Do this right. Get this right. Get this right. In hindsight, I got kind of nitpicky about it. And it was like, and then I said, just gotta leave it alone. Just gotta let it go. It is what it is. Got it? Good. All right. I'm going, get back on the subway and go home.
You killed it though. I mean, it's right. I mean, especially when you see the video. I remember the first time I saw the edit of the video, and that day was so exhausting. It was a brutal. The shoot was a brutal day, but like when I saw it the first time, I really looked at it, and I was like, I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never really seen anything like it myself. The way he cut in the whole premise of the girl turning on the TV, and she's bombarded with images, and the whole way the band performs it. And then all the archival stuff, including, shots of the women reacting to the Beatles, and, all the stuff, and the soldiers like doing calisthenics with their rifles and all of that stuff. The cult of personality. And the close up on Corey at the end, and when it pans across his face, it's like I was like, wow. And I was like, America's not ready for that. America's not ready for this. And then the girl turns the TV off.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
And it was such an experience. And then immediately when it got, it started to take off, like the record, on radio, it mirrored itself, in terms of the popularity of the video.
Well, the lyrics for Cult of Personality are as timeless as they are piercing. Let's talk about the refrain, the stanza, songwriting brilliance, neon lights, Nobel Prize, when a mirror speaks, reflection lies.
Part of it is, I was thinking also about this whole idea that Andy Warhol said everybody's going to be famous for 15 minutes.
Right.
And the whole idea of being entranced by one's own reflection, and why do we identify with people to a certain point where, we're willing to put everything else aside just to follow. And that's kind of what inspired the line.
It's that idea that if you can say something that people can somewhat relate to, they're going to shower you with accolades. Is that necessary? Why do we do that?
We were still dealing with the Cold War, the remnants of the Cold War. We're still at that point in the 80s. It was still, the wall hadn't come down quite as yet. So that idea of the competition between Russia and America was still very much in people's consciousness. And the song is really about, it doesn't make, it doesn't really take a side. It says it's asking a question, why do we follow the people we follow? And I think a lot of people were thinking something along those lines. It starts with Malcolm X.
That we have left, we want to talk right down to earth.
It ends with FDR, with Kennedy between.
The only thing we have to fear is...
So we used a lot of samples and stuff like that, but it really caught the imagination of people.
I know your anger, I know your dreams.
The ability to relate, to take on someone's persona as your own is a kind of, it's not a new phenomenon, but that phenomenon has become, it's become like Andy Warhol. Now, everybody can be famous for 10 seconds, for 20 seconds, because there's so many more ways of engaging with things. And now we have things like TikTok was like, amuse me, for 2 seconds, for 10 seconds, for whatever. And that becomes, be funny, be outrageous, be weird, do all of that. And there are people that's what they live for. That's what they live for. They live for it. And now it used to be like leaders and entertainers, Frank Sinatra, Mahatma Gandhi. And what's happened is the democratization of the cult of personality. So anybody can be, you could have a micro cult. Like there are people who are famous to the people that follow them, and you've never heard of them. There are people that have 1 million followers. It's kind of fascinating to me, really. And there are musicians who are, have incredible followings that they haven't put out records, really. So it's
right.
The whole thing is all the mediums to become that have changed completely. Because when we came up, it was what do the characters always say? There used to be rules. There used to be rules to this shit. You know what I mean? And that's what the OGs always complain about, right? Because there was a system, there were rules.
Like Mussolini and Kennedy.
Even criminal things, you did them a certain way in a certain order, and that collapsed. And we're entering into a brand new age right now. We're entering into a brand new age with the emergence of generative language modeling, aka AI. Everything is going to be flipped on its head. And we played it the very next gig at CBGB's. We played it, and it was instantly people dug it. Like instantly people were grooving to it. And interestingly enough, when we played it live, it was a little different. The final piece of the puzzle, or there were almost two pieces. The final two pieces was, number one, we actually used to start the tune with the bridge chords. It was almost like an intro. And then when we played this intro, then we played the sample. And the sample we used to use was Free at Last, Free at Last. Thank God Almighty we are free at last. It was a Martin Luther King sample. And then we would go into the riff, right?
Free at last, thank God Almighty.
was too expensive. We couldn't get it, and I was bummed. I was walking in Harlem, and they were somebody on 125th Street. You know, they have these folks always. It's like was like an open air market, you know, kind of, right. So people were selling clothes or selling records, and there was a brother that had tapes, and he had this tape, Speech to the Grassroots, Malcolm X tape, and one of the first things he says, let us talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here could easily understand. And I was like, wow, that's it.
In a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Other interesting part of that is that one of Malcolm's daughters was a fan of the band, and she used to come see us at CBGB's, right? And that was part of the way we were able to get to use the snippet of Malcolm X.
Wow.
And then the last piece was our producer, Ed Stasium, was like, you know what? Y'all need to that intro is too long. The intro is too long. You need to lose the intro. And basically just start with the sample and go right into the riff. And that's basically what we wound up doing. So it went through an entire evolution to get to the record that everybody knows. And the last bit of it was in the studio. We took out the intro, and we never looked back ever since then.
When you were singing these words, did you know at the moment that these were going to be iconic words that you would sing forever?
This song came out in the post-Reagan sort of heyday, and Reagan, at the point at which we were doing it, was being deified. He was a sacred cow to a large degree. And that's what I was thinking about the whole time. I was thinking about, you know, we talked about this years ago, but, you know, there are mascots that or basketball teams that, you know, you go to your basketball team loses. You saw we lost. You weren't playing a game. You just watched it on television, but you made it. You personalized it, and that's what we were dealing with, and that's what I was hearing when I thought about this song. It's like that you've taken possession of this thing and given it more than it's ever had. In some cases.
Even though that song is you know, really old, it's been around for a long time, it's essential truth, you know, because it really doesn't really say, it's not saying the good guy or the bad guy. There's something, it talks about a phenomenon that transcends whether you dig this person or not. You know, some people, you know, there were people that thought that FDR was a thief. You know, they thought there were people that were dead set against the New Deal. And other people were like, you know, he saved the nation. He literally saved the American economy. And there are people who made arguments on either side. And people, it's interesting, the people that aspire to be iconic, like they want to strike a pose and be that person,
right? And
it doesn't really work that way, right? It's like, it doesn't really work that way. Like you can't. I mean, some people have the viral touch, so they'll do something clever and amusing, and they can do that. But I hear people talk, "We're going to do this video and it's going to go viral," and it's like, I don't know about that. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Right. It doesn't work that way, and And that's why this thing that we did in a loft in Bushwick, Brooklyn, has had the resonance that it's had for, you know, all these years later.
I got to ask you about the guitar solo.
It's actually the second take. Okay. It's one take. Well, it's the second take. Well, it's funny. I've been tracking guitar all day that day. And near the end, Ed said, let's try a couple of solos, all right? And so I went, okay. And I did one, and Ed really liked it. So there actually is another guitar solo. And it was the very first one, and Ed really liked it. He said, well, let's do some more tomorrow. And I was like, And my brain was like, I do not want to do any more guitar tomorrow. I said, you know what? Let me try one more. Let me do one more. And that track, that's one take all the way through. It's not edited together. It's the second guitar solo all the way through, but it's one take all the way through. It was just being with the music and being with the song, and I mean that's the best way I could. I kind of went into a trance. I don't know. It's like I went into a space, and it really worked. And it was so funny because I'm playing it, and Ed was jumping up and down in the control room, and I was vaguely aware of his reaction to it, but I just kind of, and I was just very thankful, that I was present at that moment to do what that solo is.
Very cool. Now, there was a claim I wanted to ask you guys about where Epic, who, of course, had Michael Jackson on their roster, they refused to release Smooth Criminal, the video, unless they agreed to put Cult of Personality in heavy rotation. You've been hit by a smooth criminal. Which is cool that the label would do that, because a lot of times the labels don't get it. They don't get that a song is special. It's really cool that they did that.
Epic had to get the permission from Michael Jackson. Like, we want to get other videos on there, and we're going to use you as leverage. And particularly, you talked about us. And he went for it. He was like, yeah, let's do it.
Wow.
I have to tip my hat to Michael Jackson for helping our career, really.
It continues to have a life so many years later. That's when a song has made its mark, when decades later,
absolutely.
Yeah, 35 years ago. That's crazy to think.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy to think of in your life of about 35 years. That's a lot of 35 summers and 35 winters ago. It's like, it's weird.
Best way to say it.
It's a weird way of thinking about it. And even, it's strange. It was strange from the beginning. It's strange now. It'll be strange in the end. It's a very very odd thing. And part of the resonance of it doesn't really answer. It really asks a question without even asking a question. It just states what it states, but it's one of these things that's a constant.
It's a conversation that has never ended. That's what's cool about this song, is it?
Right.
It's a conversation.
It still has resonance. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a conversation that you guys started in 88 through this song, and it continues to this day. That's, again, the mark of a great song. Thanks for watching. Man, aren't they so cool? What did you think the first time you heard this electrifying song? Make sure to leave us a comment about Living Colour and this 1989 classic. And if this content resonates with you, we do invite you to subscribe. Subscribe and be a part of our daily music discussion. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.